And we're going to get started today on our next lesson of forgiveness. And what I want to make sure that I emphasize to start out is that forgiveness is one of our primary disciplines as followers of Christ. It's one of our primary disciplines. And today, over the last 6 weeks, there's just been a lot of education and sort of knowledge and trying to sort of build that, basket, if you will, of information for you around the importance of forgiveness and how it works and some of those things. But today we're going to turn a little bit. We're going to talk about how do you do it. Like it's one thing to know to do something, right? Like it's one thing to know the right way to eat. It's another thing to do it, right? I went to, I have a fancy for cinnamon rolls, and the last time, and so what I do to try to restrain myself is I love the cinnamon rolls from Tops Markets in Meadville. But what I do is I have to tell myself that I can only get top cinnamon rolls if they're on sale, because otherwise every time I went in there, I'd buy cinnamon rolls. And so it's my way of restraining it. It's sort of like God's giving me permission when he puts them on sale. And so last time it was a buy one, get one free. So I got 8 cinnamon rolls and I brought them home. Now the story's not done yet. Don't judge. Don't judge. Right? The last time I went up there, I got 2 trays of 4 cinnamon rolls, and I brought them home, and I put them on the dinner table for dessert. And my mom and dad were over, and like, oh, these look delicious. And in between my mom and my dad, they had 1.5, which means that between me and everybody else in my household, I had 6.5 over the next several days. Nobody else in my house ate them, so I couldn't. I had to be a good steward of my resources, so I couldn't waste them, right? So anyway, that's where we are. But today we're going to talk about something that I'll speak first for myself, but my suspicion is I'm going to speak for you as well, and that it's something that I struggle with, and I'm suspicious that you struggle with it as well. And it's the topic of forgiving yourself. We're camping here today. We're gonna camp on forgiving ourselves today. A couple nights ago, we were here and we had a prayer service ahead of the youth retreat. The youth are all away this weekend. I believe they're up in Edinburgh. For those of you that are going to stay for 11 o'clock services, this area up here is probably going to be pretty sparse because the kids aren't here. But we had this prayer service here a couple nights ago, and as I was preparing for this lesson, I was reminded of a prayer service I was in. It's probably been a couple of years ago now. And there was a guy in this prayer session, and all he did was he kept praying and praying and praying for forgiveness for the congregation, but then he kept praying and praying and praying for forgiveness of himself, and he kept praying and praying and praying and praying, and I got to be a little bit uncomfortable with it. I got to be a little bit because it seemed as if he was begging for forgiveness. It was as if there was something that needed to be forgiven that he somehow thought that God couldn't or wouldn't forgive. And maybe that applies to some of us today. Maybe we found ourselves in a place where we have been begging for forgiveness. I don't know. Have you ever found yourself just saying that over and forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me? Like there's a magic number that if you said it enough times, it would somehow stick. God, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. Now, based on what we've learned over the last several weeks, we've learned that it's God's nature, it's God's design, and it's God's plan to forgive us. That's all. That's what it is. All you have to do is you need to ask God for His forgiveness, and He gladly gives it to you. Now, Trace isn't in here, so I'm going to give away a secret here. So as we get close to the Christmas season, and if she comes in, just act like I'm not talking about her, okay? Um, as we get close to the Christmas season, we start to get all sorts of things coming in the mail. I believe it's called bulk mail. Is that they're just, some people may call it junk. Those of you who are sophisticated call it bulk. Bulk business, all right? So one of the things that I look forward to every year, is when I get this flyer from Bath and Body Works, because they have a thing in here. It's usually like a free lotion or body wash or candle or something, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is a way that I can get some gift for Trace that makes it look like I know what I'm doing, right? I largely don't. As my daughters have gotten older, we just go together. I give them the coupon, they go in, they get the stuff, and they come out. But that coupon, I think, is very illustrative of how forgiveness works. You simply have to stop in and claim it. I'm sorry? You simply have to stop in and claim it. You have the coupon, but what you have to do is you have to go say, I'd like this, please. I would like this, please, right? It's available to everyone, but you have to accept it. And that's God's forgiveness. It's available to everyone. The question is, do you accept it? Do you accept God's forgiveness? I will tell you, as far as my study goes, I have not found a situation where if you ask God to redeem that coupon for forgiveness, where He says no. Oops, sorry. Somehow you have checked some box where you're just beyond my reach. But I want to go back to this story about being in this prayer meeting and this guy begging for forgiveness. And at the time, I was doing 10,000 steps a day every day. And after this prayer meeting, I had a few hundred steps more to get. So I said to this guy, I said, hey, why don't you take a couple laps with me around the parking lot? So we walked a couple laps around the parking lot and just talked about some of the things that were that had transpired in the meeting that we were in. And whenever it was all said and done, I said to him, I said, you are forgiven, right? God's let it go, and you can let it go too. I want to pause here just for a moment to speak to each of us, myself included. We've done some wrong things in our lives, but if you have asked for forgiveness, God's given it to you. He's forgiven you. He's forgiven you. Today, we're going to talk about forgiving ourselves, something that some of us have admitted to struggling with. And chances are, if you have a hard time forgiving yourself, you may have a hard time forgiving other people. Remember, you can't give what you don't have. That's one of the rules of the world, right? So today, we're not going to talk about forgiving family. We're not going to talk about forgiving neighbors. We're not going to talk about forgiving coworkers. We're not going to talk about forgiving the weird person you crossed paths with yesterday, walking down the street. We're specifically going to look at forgiving ourselves. And I think this is an important topic because I think this is something that is often neglected. I don't know how many times you've had a lesson on forgiving yourself. We may say that we forgive others, but what happens is we remain trapped in some place where we continue to blame ourselves for some issue. So I'm just curious, does this sound familiar to anybody? Few of us? Okay. Okay. All right. The rest of you will get around to it. We're going to do a lesson on procrastination in a couple of weeks. Out of curiosity, how many of you have ever flown on an airplane before? Let me ask this. Who has not flown on an airplane? Any? Okay. Well, I'll give you the secret. When you get on the airplane, you go to your seat and they'll shut the door, and now they start to go through the safety instructions, right? Now, just out of curiosity, could you recite the safety instructions? Like if you've gone through it a few times and it's like, okay, you know that they're going to talk about, hey, this is your seat belt, this is how it opens, this is how it closes. There's all these different things. But one of the things they say is in the event of cabin depressurization, oxygen masks will drop from the ceiling, right? And they'll show it and they'll tell you how you put it on and they do those. But they very much stress this. They say, make sure you put your mask on first before trying to help somebody else. Have you heard that? Every time you get on an airplane, doesn't that sound selfish? I mean, you got a little kid next to you. You have a grandma with an oxygen mask on, or with an oxygen tank. Like she needs it. Like if this happens, shouldn't you help her first? I think this is a very selfish instruction. Right? Take care of yourself first. The first time I heard that, I thought, well, this is a little weird. And I think some of us, especially those of us who were raised in church, we're taught that we should seek to be supremely unselfish as followers of Christ. That we should continuously put others' needs ahead of our own. Right? That we have special words that we use for it. We use words like sacrifice. Right? Like this, like these are things that we have encountered. In my household, there's two people, person A and person B. Person A, make sure I have this right. Person A has taken the role of staying up late with kids or getting up early with kids. Kids need to be picked up, kids need to be dropped off. Person A has this responsibility. Person B has the responsibility of getting a good night's sleep. Person B has that has the responsibility of getting the best night's sleep possible, right? When I became serious about growing myself, I came across a teaching that stressed the importance of taking care of yourself. And that made me a little uncomfortable because at first I thought, well, what I have to do is I have to give and give and give and do this in some type of sacrificial way to the point where I could sacrifice my own well-being for others. But the reality is, it's essentially selfish to not take care of yourself. It is selfish to not take care. It is selfish to not improve your skill set. And truth be told, it's selfish and it can negatively impact other believers to not go through the hard work of forgiving yourself. Think about this. You help somebody You go out, you invite somebody to church. We have that. We're going to come up to the Christmas season. I have little doubt that in the next couple of weeks there's going to be cards that'll be in your bulletin saying, "Hey, invite people to Christmas Eve service." We're going to have at least 2 services, I'm guessing, something like that. And hey, invite people to come to church. You invite somebody to come to church. This person comes to church with you. They hear the good news. They hear the story of Jesus' birth. They hear that Jesus came to forgive you of your sins. All you have to do is accept him as you got to turn in the coupon. You have it. And then when you walk out, all you do is you talk about how you can't forgive yourself. This is hard work we have to look at. This is hard work. It's like putting on the mask in an airplane. If you want to make any positive impact on the people around you, you got to take care of yourself first. The person that gets a lot of sleep in my household makes a much bigger impact on people around them than the person that doesn't. Little doubt. There's no doubt. Right? So we're going to take a look at a verse today that I'm going to suspect is reasonably familiar to you. We're going to turn to the Gospel of Mark. But I'm going to ask you to take a look at this with perhaps a different perspective this morning. Gospel of Mark, chapter 8, verses 34, 35, and 36. This is going to be Jesus teaching. It says, "Then he, Jesus, called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, 'Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul?'" Verse 36 again. What good is it for somebody to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? Brothers and sisters, I want to encourage you to take care of yourself. I want to encourage you to take care of yourself. We have likely studied this passage countless times in our lives around submitting to the will and purpose of God. But what good is it to spread the message of forgiveness and yet live in the torment of unforgiveness towards yourself? Do you have any of these struggles? Do you deal with negative self-talk? Anybody know anybody that's pretty rough on how they talk to themselves? What about people who carry a lot of guilt, carry a lot of shame? That sound familiar at all? I'm going to tell you, those of us who are carrying that around, the enemy is laughing uncontrollably at us. We keep ourselves trapped in negative self-talk. We keep ourselves trapped in guilt and shame. And what happens is we become less effective followers of Christ. I've struggled a bit on where to put this next point in this lesson, so I'm going to put it here. It may fit better somewhere else, but maybe for those of you who are note takers, maybe put this in a box. You may want to draw an arrow to put it somewhere else before it's all said and done. But when God forgives you for something and you don't forgive you for that same something, you're putting your judgment, you're putting your justice, and you're putting yourself ahead and over God. And this is a hard statement, and this is a difficult statement. And for those of us who have struggled with forgiving ourselves, this can be a very uncomfortable idea. It can be very uncomfortable. So you must know and you must understand that forgiving yourself is something that you must do and that you have control over. You have control over this. I, I would hazard the guess that pretty much everybody in this room has done something at some time that they regret. Right? We probably all can make a list of some of those things. So before we go any further, I want to normalize that for you. We all got those lists. That doesn't make us unique. That actually unites us for that. So the point of this lesson is not to beat anybody up. The point of a lesson on forgiving yourself is to set us free. Now, remember the words of Paul, Romans chapter 7, verses 14 through 20. See if this sounds familiar to any. I think I've taught this actual piece before, but you're gonna get it taught again. Romans chapter 7, verses 14 through 20. Paul writes to the church in Rome, "We know that the law is spiritual, but I am unspiritual, sold as a slave to sin. I do not understand what I do. For what I want to do, I do not do, but what I hate to do." Pause. Does that describe anybody you know? Woo! Picking up verse 16. "And if I do what I don't want to do, I agree that if I do what I do not want to do, I agree the law is good. As it is no longer I myself who do it, but it is sin living in me. For I know the good itself does not dwell in me, that is, in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do. This I keep doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sin living in me that does it." Does it sound like Paul is struggling here a bit? I would ask you, do you think it's possible that Paul may at this moment struggle a little bit with forgiving himself? I think it's at least possible, right? That's my interpretation. If you make a note for that, make it in pencil, not ink, because that's a Jesse McCullough opinion. Take that for whatever it's worth. But I specifically call this out to help us take a breath and to understand that what we're talking about today is normal and common. And it's part of our discipleship. It's a discipline that we have to learn. Now, here's the thing. You have the capacity to release this. I'm going to have 10 points to share with you today. And hopefully we're going to go through them quick, right? We're going to go through them quick. These 10 points are not necessarily easy to do, right? It may take time and repetition. If this was easy to do, this wouldn't be a lesson. We'd all be over it already, right? But I think it is something that we can work through. So where do we start? I'm going to tell you that there is a specific place I want you to start. You are going to start this act of forgiveness in the bathroom. Write that down. Go to the bathroom, shut the door. Right? The act of forgiving yourself is going to lead to humility, right? Which is necessary. If we want to be able to forgive others, we're going to have humility. 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 5, 6, and 7, Peter writes, "In the same way, you who are younger, submit yourself to your elders. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility towards one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble." We need to build this humility. Verse 6, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. We need some humility, right? Psalm 138, verse 6 reads, "Though the Lord is exalted, he looks kindly on the lowly. Though lofty, he sees them from afar." What I want you to know about this is humility creates closeness with God. Humility creates closeness with God. So the process of forgiving yourself starts with step number one. Step number one, you need to look yourself in the mirror. That's why you had to go to the bathroom. I don't know where else you may. If you have another place that has a mirror, feel free to use that. If you need to just stare at the rear view mirror in your car, do that. But I figure reasonably safe bet that you have a mirror in your bathroom. You want to look at yourself honestly through the Word of God. So the first one is to face yourself. Step number one. James chapter 1, verses 22 through 25. James writes, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourself. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in a mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard, but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do." The Bible is a mirror revealing what's truly in you. And so I want to encourage you today that if you can face you, if you can look yourself in the mirror, God can fix you. God can do that. And so what I want you to do when you look yourself in the mirror, I want you to apologize and forgive yourself. And you may need to start with a compliment. "Hey, your hair's looking really good today, Jess. Sorry that this happened. I forgive you." Step number two. Own you. Take responsibility, right? Acknowledge your part. Stop blaming others. Stop blaming others. Take responsibility for it. Galatians chapter 6, verses 3, 4, and 5. "If anyone thinks they are something when they are not, they deceive themselves. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else, for each should carry their own load." Take responsibility. Number three, remind yourself. Remind yourself. Remember, you are who God says you are. You are not some failure. You are forgiven. You are not unreachable. You are redeemed. You were purchased at a great price. It was God's joy to do that for you. Number four, you may have to grieve. It's okay to feel bad about whatever it was that happened. You can acknowledge the pain. You can acknowledge the disappointment. You can acknowledge the unmet expectations. I will remind you that emotions are neither good nor bad. Now that was a surprise to me. Emotions are neither good nor bad. What emotions are for are they are to move you to action. Number 5, you need to insulate you. You need to build community and you need to build accountability. You need to avoid isolation where you can be making the same mistake over and over and over again. You need people that will be around to help you and encourage you with whatever burdens it is that you carry. Now, I'm curious. Could you make, and maybe this is a homework assignment, could you make a list of people? Pastor John had a story this morning about calling somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning and they answered. If you called who are the people that you can call at 2 o'clock in the morning? Whose names are on that list? And if you don't have very many names on that list, perhaps that's an action step. Maybe you need to get some more names on that list. But those are the people that are going to help you out. The people that when the phone rings in the middle of the night, they're on their way. They're on their way. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 and 10 reads, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Remember, even Jesus surrounded himself with disciples. He had people around him. They were imperfect people around him. You will probably have imperfect people around you. But have people around you. Number 6, value yourself. Value yourself. Recognize your worth. Invest in your healing. And I choose that word specifically. Invest in your healing because you are worth it. Prioritize emotional and spiritual health over possessions or status. Do the hard work. Do the hard work. Value yourself. Number 7, embrace yourself. Embrace yourself. Accept who you are and where you are right now. Don't compare where you are to somebody else who's further along or not as far along. You are where you are right now, and I want you to know that has not surprised God at all. He doesn't say, Jess, you're 50 years old, and this is what now I've used that for motivation before, but I will tell you that it is not true. There's nothing that I do today that will surprise God, good or bad, right? That's where we are. We need to accept who you are and where you are right now. And really the point of that is to avoid judgment, right? It's not to say, oh, I wish I was further along, or I'm surprised that it's taken this long, or whatever. Just, it is what it is. It is what it is. And this is where you start from. You start from here. This is where I am, and this is where I am going. Now, I'm going to move in. I think I told you I had 10 steps. I only have 7 steps. I was dishonest with you. Didn't know how to read my own notes, which is actually good because I'm running late. I didn't want to have to shoehorn that stuff in. And as far as I can tell, I have not lost pages of my lesson here. But I want to encourage you today that forgiveness starts with you. It starts with you. And it may start with you in the bathroom today. And if for those of you who are real, innovative about it, you can take dry erase markers and you can write yourself messages on the mirror. I forgive you, I love you. Whatever it looks like, right? Whatever it looks like. Now, I've probably done this before, but I think it makes sense to do it again today, right here. You see, a little while ago, we looked at what Paul wrote to the Romans. And he was struggling with, I'm doing the things I don't know, I'm doing the things I don't want to do, right? He was doing that. He was displeased with himself. You could probably take a hint of disappointment and frustration in Paul's writing there. But I'm going to tell you something that you probably already know, but I'm just going to put it out there on the table. The Bible wasn't written all at one time. It was written by many people over hundreds of years, right? Many authors over hundreds of years. And even some of the authors who wrote multiple books, like Paul, he didn't sit down and didn't write them all at the same time. He wrote them over a period of time. I don't have this as an exact, this is a ballpark, but ballpark, Paul wrote the letter to the Romans around 55 AD. Ballpark, right? About 5 years later, he would write to the Philippian church around 60 AD. If you want to turn with me to Philippians chapter 4, verses 11, 12, and 13. I just want you to hear the words, but also hear Paul's tone in this. Pick up on his tone in this. Paul, at this point, is under house arrest. He is awaiting trial in Rome. And he says, he writes to the church, he says, I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. Now, I'm going to hit pause right there. With what we read in Romans, did that sound content? I don't know that it sounded content. Let's pick back up, or we'll reread verse 12. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. About 5 years difference in those two writings. And I share that with you because for those of you that go into the bathroom today and shut the door, it may be 5 years. I don't know. Maybe 5 days, maybe 5 weeks, maybe 15 years. I don't know. I don't know. But I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you and I want to empower you that this is something that you can do. Now, I got a text message earlier this week, and it was from Sister Terry. She said, Jess, they're putting index cards in the bulletin for service. Maybe what could be done, and Terry, correct me on this, I don't want to misquote you. Maybe we need to write down somebody who we need to forgive on an index card. And I thought that's a really good idea. And maybe that's something we'll do next week. But maybe you need to take that index card, and there's index cards up here. There's bunches of them. Maybe you need to write your name down on that index card. Maybe you just need to pick up an index card. You need to take it home with you. You need to write your name on it. Maybe you need to write on that index card, I forgive me. Jess forgives Jess for, and then, I don't know, maybe you need a legal pad or something to put all the things that you need to forgive yourself for. Maybe the index card ain't big enough. Maybe you need to write it all down. Tell yourself in the mirror. Remind yourself that you're loved. And then destroy the card. Burn it up, rip it up, tear it up, stomp on it. I don't care what you do with it. Because when you've been forgiven, it's gone away. The transgression has been forgiven. There's no need to carry it around anymore. This is going to conclude what I had prepared for you today, but I had a conversation with Sean a couple of weeks ago, I think, and he didn't point this out explicitly, but he said, "Oh, it used to be you used to write these three letters on the board, ACT," and I thought, I used to, and I haven't done it for so long, and I apologize to you for that, but I think it's an appropriate couple of letters to put on the board for you today. Based on what we have learned today, what action will you take? That is the A. What change will you make? That is the C. And is there something that you learned today that you can teach to somebody else? That's the T. Is there something that you learned today that you can teach to somebody else for your benefit and for theirs? With that, that concludes what I have prepared for us.